It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, historic scenes in Parliament this evening as MPs vote to decriminalise abortion. It represents the biggest shake-up to reproductive rights in England and Wales in almost 60 years. Polling for Sky News suggests the majority of people support a change in the law. But the issue has reignited debate in Westminster and further afield. Also ahead, a political war of words following the damning review into grooming gangs. The Prime Minister hits out at those who shout and scream but do nothing. And the Conservative leader rejects claims that she is politicising the issue after the review's author said she was disappointed with the opposition's approach. Plus, we'll get the latest on the fast-moving situation unfolding in the Middle East as Donald Trump says he's not going to kill Iran's supreme leader, at least not yet. We'll hear what the Prime Minister told our political editor, Beth Rigby. And with the Women's Euros kicking off 2 weeks tomorrow, we'll go inside the Lionesses training camp as they prepare to defend their title. All that to come and much more on the UK Tonight. Well, we start with our historic breaking news from Westminster this evening. In the past hour, MPs have voted to decriminalise abortion. The new rules will apply to late-term abortions, those that happen after 24 weeks. Abortion up to 24 weeks was already legal with the approval of 2 doctors, and this will still be the case. Polling for Sky News suggests a majority of the public back the decision that MPs made this evening. Let's bring in our political correspondent, Serena Barker-Singh, who's been following events tonight for us in Westminster. Serena.
Well, yeah, this is a huge moment for reproductive rights in England as Wales. As you've said, this will disapply the existing criminal law relating to abortion from women acting in relation to their own pregnancy at any time. And I'm with the backbencher that made that amendment happen, Tonia Antoniazzi. How does it feel to have passed that with such a huge majority to 42?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased, but obviously, the debate has been quite, toxic, and it's all been very difficult, and there's been a lot of opposition. However, we've made one simple amendment to the crime and policing bill to basically, as you've explained, disapply women from the criminal justice system. I've met these women and I cannot believe what they have been put through, particularly in the case of Nicola Packard over the last 4.5 years, the financial and the emotional trauma, and also having your whole personal life being public knowledge in a court of law. It's just wrong. So this is a really simple amendment. It's been backed by over 300 MPs today, and once this bill passes in the House, that law will come into place straight away, and that's a really good news for those women that currently find themselves in the system.
What did you make of some of the MPs who said that the existing criminal law acted as a deterrent? A lot of Conservative MPs were worried that once you remove that, then there might be more coercive abortions and abuse in the system.
There's been a lot of misinformation, and it's their interpretation that is completely wrong. No woman that is pregnant wants to have an abortion. If they do, they always remember. It's something that will live with them for the rest of their lives. Being pregnant is a huge moment in your life. You just don't turn around at 24 plus weeks and say, I don't want this anymore. There will be a reason why. These are the most vulnerable women in society that we have to look after, find out why, and make sure that they are taken out of the legal system.
And then why not go further? I think Stella Creasy, who also laid an amendment, didn't get voted on today, said that your amendment wasn't fully decriminalisation. Do you accept that?
It was decriminalisation for the woman, and that was the simple right amendment for this bill. Obviously, Stella makes some really valid points around abortion care, but what we need to look at is the Abortion Act, the Human Rights Act, and actually look to amend those laws and change those laws in order to get to where she wants to get to. And that isn't a consensus in the House like we've seen today. Everybody just wants to take women out of the criminal system.
And I don't know if you saw on the way in this morning, there were anti-abortion protesters. So obviously this debate has caused a lot of division, and that will be a deeper ongoing debate in the UK about abortion. Do you worry about the rise of that?
I do worry about the rise of it. I worry about the funding that's going into some of these organisations, and I worry about the lies that they're peddling. I was very distressed to see a large photo of Stella outside Carriage Gates this morning when I came in to work, and and also there were men screaming at us as we were walking in. It's not okay to do that. It is not okay to cause division in society. The whole reason we are here is to look after vulnerable women and to look after women, not to be shouting at them as they're coming in to do their job in a democracy that we live in. So I think people need to think long and hard about how they are comporting themselves, because it is particularly unpalatable and also very dangerous for female MPs.
Congratulations on your
Thank you.
today. So that debate will rumble on, but a historic day and a big change to abortion rights, the biggest change in England and Wales for over 50 years.
Sarita Barker-Singh in Westminster Forest tonight with reaction there from the MP who tabled that amendment that won with a huge majority. Thank you so much. Well, let's continue that debate, shall we? I'm joined tonight in the studio by Dr. Sonia Adesanya, a spokesperson for Doctors for Choice. They are campaigning for the decriminalisation of abortion. And we're also joined by pro-life activist Aisling Goodison from the Centre for Bioethical Reform UK. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to come in tonight. A big moment for both sides of this debate, an historic night tonight. I'll come to you first, Dr. Adesanya, if I may. Your reaction to this, a victory in your eyes?
Yeah, relieved, slightly emotional. This is something that we've been campaigning for many years. You know, this vote today will put an end to the horrendous police investigations many women in this country have been undergoing in recent years for suspected illegal abortions. This is a vote today that puts women and their right to choose and their health and their care first. This is a vote today that also signifies to the rest of the world. You know, when we have a world right now where we have the President of the United States of America rolling back reproductive rights in America and actually across the world, cutting funding to reproductive and abortion care. This is a vote today that signifies that this country is pro-choice and pro-women and puts women and their healthcare first. So I'm relieved, overjoyed, and actually really, really grateful to not just the politicians, but actually to the thousands and thousands of people in this country who have, in recent years, but particularly in the past few weeks, have been writing to the MP, you know, signing petitions, going to Parliament, sending emails. There's so many people across the country who've been campaigning for this and working hard for this. So grateful for that. And this is, I think, you know, a good step forward for women's health and women's rights. There's more to be done, of course, but this is a really welcome step forward and long overdue. So, yeah, full of relief and just very relief and happy emotions today of what this means for women in this country.
Yeah, it is a very emotional day for women, whatever side of the debate you're on. And Aisling, I know you come at it from the other side of that debate. Can you talk to me about how you're feeling tonight? Because, you know, this decision taken by MPs, but Sky News has done some independent polling that's saying that the majority of the public actually back the outcome this evening.
I think if people really understood what this meant, that they wouldn't feel that way. At the moment, I'm feeling quite heartbroken because I'm like, I'm 6 months pregnant at the moment. And the reality is, thank you very much, but for some women, it wouldn't be that case. Some women who are desperate, 6 months pregnant or more, it's now legal for them to do backstreet abortions on themselves at home. It's not legal for doctors, but if I wanted to, I could order pills by post. No one would have to know. I could keep them and administer them to myself all the way up to the point of birth.
I might be being confused. Has today not made it safer for women who are in the later stages of pregnancy?
Because I can take those pills. You've seen so many different cases. We're talking about investigations of women here that you're saying, isn't it barbaric that these women are being investigated for illegal abortions after the 24-week limit? But what you're saying now, let me just finish. What you're saying is we've removed all the investigations. So I could take those pills. I'm feeling my baby kicking at the moment. I could take those pills, cause myself harm, and kill my unborn child up to the point of birth.
Let's Dr. Adesanya come in here, because you will have spoken to women in the situation that Aisling is describing.
Yeah. So the first thing to say, the vote today doesn't actually change the Abortion Act. So it doesn't change how abortion care is provided in this country. It doesn't change who can access abortion, and it doesn't change that. The investigations that I've been talking about. So what we have in this country is we have the Abortion Act that came in 1967, which deems that a woman can be protected from prosecution if she has an abortion under certain parameters, and if that abortion was to happen outside of the parameters, then she could be prosecuted under a law dating back to the Victorian era. So that's what we take a woman outside of that law. And the investigations that have happened in recent years, so let's say a woman has had a miscarriage or has had a stillbirth under circumstances of what deemed suspicious. Let's say she'd considered having an abortion earlier, then she's been subject to police investigations. Now, that's going to stop.
That's in very few cases.
And that should stop.
You're talking about a tiny percentage of cases. You're talking about since 1861, 3 women have been convicted with an up to 3-year sentence. That's 3 women. You're talking about, but at the moment, with pills by post, 1 in 17 women are hospitalised because of pills by post. Do you agree that abortion harms women?
But are they doing that in late-term pregnancy? Pills by post came in, and it came to prevalence during lockdown because women were finding themselves, particularly vulnerable women, finding themselves in situations where they were pregnant and they didn't want to be for whatever reason. I think we're sort of conflating the issue with how we get access to an abortion to the safeguarding of women. I mean, Aisling...
I think we're talking about if we want...
I can explain this quite clearly.
Well,
so there's 2 ways to have an abortion. You can have a medical abortion by an abortion pill or a surgical abortion. Now, a medical abortion, and we changed this due to coronavirus, when people couldn't travel, what used to previously happen under the law, that you had to have the abortion pill in a licensed abortion provider. So you couldn't have the pill in a GP surgery or anywhere else. It had to happen under a licensed provider. Because we couldn't have women travelling under COVID, we brought in regulations that said that for women where it was suitable and it was for their preference, that after a consultation...
And this is still prevalent now, is it?
This is still happening now. So after a consultation, you have the abortion pill at home.
Perhaps you can explain to me how you're sort of seeing this in the eyes of what has happened today, because for so many people, the fact that this has been decriminalised, women will come out from their homes to seek proper medical advice in a proper medical environment, because whatever their reason may be for wanting to terminate a pregnancy after 24 weeks, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a woman that takes that decision lightly. I'm sure you agree with that point. But the argument is, and you'll give me the rebuttal to this, the argument is that by decriminalising abortion, we have a more open, more tolerant society where it can be spoken about and vulnerable women can go without shame to their GP or their local hospital. And it might be by pill, it might be by medical procedure, but it brings it out in the open. And I think what you're referring to is women and girls getting these pills through the post without any medical guidance and doing it without any sort of support.
Right, because of the COVID regulations, you removed in-clinic consultations and ultrasounds, which were very important for understanding how far along a woman is in her pregnancy. So we've seen almost an epidemic in women taking pills when they don't actually know how far along they are in their pregnancies. We don't know. As we've had the case with a lady who recently took the pills and aborted her 26-week baby. And
that is their choice.
No, but she said, if I knew that I was 26 weeks along, I wouldn't have done that to myself or my baby.
But is that
so
not
we
our
are
choice
harming,
not to have an ultrasound?
No, but hang on, you're sending the pills by post because this is as well as for this. So 1 second, as well as this being. We're saying this is about women. It's actually about abortion business. We're cutting out the middleman. We're sending pills by post to women who aren't having ultrasounds or consultations to know where they are in their pregnancies. And it's harming women. It's not fair to them.
Telemedicine, you can only have the abortion pills at home before 10 weeks.
Yeah, but that's not happening.
By the law. And that hasn't changed today.
That hasn't changed today. But that's not happening. And I think also there is no protections and safeguards for these women or for their babies. And what is happening to these babies? Would you be in favour of reparations for women that have been harmed by abortion?
The vast majority of abortions are early. 98% of them, there will be 90% are happening before 12 weeks, 98% before 18 weeks. Late abortions that you are referring to, these are a minority, less than 1%. And when these are happening...
Which is still more than 2,500
And when these are happening, these are extremely difficult and complex
But you've
situations.
made it legal for women to do it.
Often when the woman's health is at risk, or when her life is at risk.
Okay, but you've just made it legal for her to do it to herself.
And that hasn't. We haven't. That's not what's happened.
How's that loving? How's that kind?
That's not what's happened today.
But it is, because you've just taken out the criminal process, which would safeguard her against knowing how far along she is in her pregnancy and taking pills that would kill
hang on a second.
her child.
Ashley, can I ask the question? Do you support one of these women who takes an abortion pill at home being investigated and prosecuted by police?
Again, going back to, is this actually happening? And if these prosecutions
that
are
is what
happening,
could happen
why
under
do
the existing law until it's changed
Why do
today?
investigations happen? Laws exist to protect lives, to protect people from harms being committed against them.
Ashley,
now, this is being taken seriously. We're talking about after 24 weeks here, so can I just finish this? Yeah. We're talking about after 24 weeks here, legalising abortions in these cases, because that's what decrim actually means. You're legalising it up to the point of birth. Up to the very point of birth.
Yeah, but again, as the doctor points out, that's very rare. Dr. Adesera, I want you to respond.
So, prior to today, a small number of late abortions do happen, and these are and post 24 weeks regardless.
Why? Why do they happen?
So before the vote happened, a very small number of late abortions do happen when the woman's life is at risk. An abortion can happen post 24 weeks. So there's a few circumstances where it happens, and these are all extremely horrendous situations for the mums and the families to go through. But they do happen because and it is horrendous. Now I don't think we should be stigmatising or shaming those women who are having to go through late abortions.
And it's a very small number.
It's
about safeguarding. That's what we're talking about, not stigmatising.
But that's not changed today. So
but it's about safeguarding, but it's not about making these women criminals. That's what I can't get my head around. I totally accept your point.
Right.
And I know that you sit here 30 weeks pregnant, having been 30 weeks pregnant myself. It's a difficult headspace to be in. So to put yourself in the shoes of a mother who's...
But why is it difficult?
Yeah, but that's the thing. We are in a privileged position. We sit here as privileged individuals who, haven't been abused or subjected to any of that. But there are some women that have, and we can't understand their circumstances.
We're not talking about... Let's be real here. We're not talking about criminalising. We're talking about protecting.
Well, we've just decriminalised it, so that's what we're debating tonight.
But what I'm talking about is, when you're saying criminalising, why do laws exist? They exist to protect lives.
But they also evolve, don't they? Because this comes from the Victorian era.
Yeah, shouldn't they evolve towards...
This is a question for both of you. We're running out of time, but look, this has happened now, and it will move forward. Is the best thing to come from this, for both of you, on opposite sides of the debates, is better safeguarding and regulation for abortions? Now that it's brought out of the shadows and nobody's fearing police going through their phones or looking through their medical history, is it not going to make it safer for those women who, whether you agree with their choices or not, they are going to make these decisions?
Absolutely. And I think, we have to be putting... For these women that are in some of these cases where, the case that you're referring to, if a woman in late stages is considering having an abortion, and I can't, she must be in an extremely difficult situation, potentially very vulnerable woman, don't we need to make sure that that woman is able to get the care and the support that they need, and that we can show them compassion? Okay. I think in prison, criminalising those women is the wrong thing.
We are running out of time. A brief response from you, Ashley,
women need more protection, and actually I would be in favour.
Police when it comes to their health care.
I would be in favour of reparations for women that have been harmed by abortion, and I'd hope that you'd be in favour with me, because reparations would mean that there would be reform in favour of protecting them and their children. Yeah. There would be compensation for the harms that have been committed against them. We've got 81% increase in mental health risks to women, 250% increase in drug abuse.
I'm in favour
so you're talking
prioritising women.
And would you be in favour of reparations for women that have been harmed by abortion?
Their health and putting women and their health and their care first. And
listen, we must leave it there. We have been debating this issue for decades. We were never going to get into it all inside 10 minutes of a news programme, but I think you've given excellent accounts of both of your points of view, which I think is really important to represent. The vote has gone your way tonight. It hasn't gone yours, but thank you for coming in and speaking so passionately and eloquently about a very difficult and emotional subject for all women, regardless of what side they're on. Thank you so much. Ashland Goodison there from the Centre for Bioethical Reform UK, and Dr Sonia Adesara, Doctor for Choice UK. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Well, if you visit the Sky News YouTube channel, you can watch a special report from Serena Barker-Singh. You saw her at the top of the programme there. As she has been hearing more from both sides of this abortion debate. More to come throughout the evening here on Sky News. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has been telling Sky News that he gets frustrated with politicians who shout and scream but do nothing, as he defended past comments about a grooming gangs inquiry. The government initially resisted calls for a national inquiry, but that position changed yesterday after a review found officials had dodged the issue of ethnicity for fear of being called racist. Baroness Louise Casey, who carried out that audit, says that she wants it to bring about a national reset and has urged politicians to keep politics out of it. Our social affairs correspondent Becky Johnson has this next report.
As grooming scandals emerged in towns and cities across Britain, here in Rotherham, they knew the truth. Over 1,000 girls raped and trafficked in this town alone, the majority of their abusers, men of Pakistani heritage. It was all revealed in a report over a decade ago. Authorities tried to cover it up. We now know Whitehall officials tried to help them.
We're Britain's darkest secret.
Elizabeth, who was raped by dozens of Pakistani men from the age of 14, believes a national inquiry is long overdue.
They silence the wrong people, and we need the truth. Why did they do it?
Do you think if the authorities had confronted this issue head-on, that this is an issue predominantly with perpetrators of Pakistani origin, that you might have been spared your abuse?
I would have, going back, the intelligence, everything. I should have never been a victim.
Should the Prime Minister apologise for not calling this inquiry sooner?
Absolutely, and I say that because of the insults as well, that he said, really bad insults about jumping on the right bandwagon.
The Prime Minister hasn't apologised. Instead, he defended his U-turn.
My focus is on the victims on this, not on politicians. I simply gently point out that some of those that allowed this now were the people who did absolutely nothing when they had the opportunity. But I do on the national inquiry, because it is important. That needs to go wherever the evidence takes it.
Louise Casey, whose report revealed the ethnicity of perpetrators have been shied away from, told MPs there needs to be a national reset.
I feel very strongly on issues that are as searing as people's race, when actually we know the prejudice and racism that people of colour experience in this country, to not get how you treat that data right, actually I think is a different level of public irresponsibility.
The Conservative leader held a press conference with the Shadow Home Secretary, surrounded by abuse survivors and their relatives, insisting she wasn't interested in political point scoring.
What I actually want to see is an inquiry that gets to the bottom of this. When I found out that there were 50 towns, and we found out about 4,000 new victims last year, 807 perpetrators, I just could not believe the scale of this. No one has joined the dots. That's what we're talking about now.
Youth worker Jane Senior became a whistleblower to help expose the scale of abuse here in Rotherham.
I was told that it was rocking the multicultural boat. It's about these people now standing up and recognising that we don't just make a presumption that a child is lying because they talk about the most horrendous abuse. We make a presumption that they're telling the truth.
Rotherham is like so many towns where everyone knew grooming was going on, but few in power wanted to talk about it. Here, the authorities aren't just accused of a cover-up. Over the years, there have also been allegations a number of police officers and councillors were involved in the abuse. Rotherham Council accepts there were failings, saying today things are completely different. But this scandal has gone on for so long, some here have lost faith that the full truth will ever emerge. Becky Johnson, Sky News, Rotherham.
Sir Keir Starmer says he doesn't believe the United States is about to join Israel's conflict with Iran. Donald Trump cut short his trip to the G7 summit last night and called a meeting with his top security advisers amid growing tensions in the Middle East. And as you saw in Becky's report just there, the Prime Minister has been speaking to our political editor, Beth Rigby. He also talked to her about this particular subject.
I don't think you should read into that an American attack is imminent.
He's calling the Security Council together.
We had a 2-hour discussion with the President last night on the Middle East, on this very issue. And as a result of that, the G7 statement came out very clear about the risk of the nuclear programme in Iran, Israel's right to self-defence and the need to de-escalate across the region, including in Gaza.
So you don't think an attack is in his mind, or US joining Israel? You don't think that's in his mind?
Well, the wording of the G7 statement, I think, speaks for itself. And I sat next to the President for that 2-hour discussion as we were working through not just the issues, but the statement itself.
So you're not worried about escalation?
I'm clear that we need to de-escalate.
But are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation. I'm worried about escalation in the region and the impact it would have in the region. I'm worried about the impact it would also have on Gaza, and I'm very pleased that the focus now is also on a ceasefire in Gaza, which I want to press for in coming days as well, but also the impact it's having on our economy.
Oh, let's talk to David Blevins now, who joins us from the White House. David, we've heard so many things from Donald Trump, haven't we, over the last 24 hours? It's quite hard to know what he specifically thinks about this subject. What's your summation of what's going on right now?
Well, we may hear more from the President in the coming hours. Right now, he is meeting with his National Security Council here in the West Wing of the White House. That's the forum in which the President, cabinet members and military chiefs make decisions in critical moments like this one. The meeting is taking place, of course, in private, but the diplomacy is playing out in public because, as always, Donald Trump is posting about it in real time. 3 posts in rapid succession, one of them going so far as to threaten Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. This is what Donald Trump said. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, in brackets, kill, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Unconditional surrender, he demanded. Now, if the removal of the Supreme Leader is on the table, it tells us the extent to which things have changed. For months, the President urged Israel not to attack Iran and urged Iran to reach a deal with US negotiators. But that deal hasn't been reached, and he's now reported to be thinking about sending in B-2 aircraft to assist in the bombing of Iran's underground nuclear facility. Speculation around that is also being fuelled by comments from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, saying if the President sends in the American military, it will be in the interests of the American people. But of course, it would also be a breach of a campaign promise not to deploy US troops in another foreign war. And that's why the decision being taken right now is critical, not just in terms of global stability, but in terms of Donald Trump's trust with his own base.
David, thank you. David Blevins with the latest from the White House. More to come at 9 o'clock in the world with Yalda Hakim. Still to come on the UK tonight. Before then, we'll hear from the mother of Jodie Whiting, who took her own life after having her benefits mistakenly stopped by the DWP. An inquest has found a disabled mother who took her own life did so after her benefits were mistakenly stopped. Housebound Jodie Whiting died in February 2017, just days after her disability benefits were halted by the Department for Work and Pensions. The 42-year-old left notes to her family members saying she had had enough. What followed was an 8-year fight for the truth by Jodie's mother, Joy Dove. I sat down with Joy and asked her to tell me Jodie's story.
For 15 years, she'd been poorly. She had the curvature of the spine and she'd had operations. Also, she had bipolar, she had mental health problems. She had a range of illnesses. And as I say, for all them years, she'd been on it, and every couple of years, they used to like send a form to fill out how you do an update on every couple of years. Then the Derby say, we want to see you all. We'll just carry on, you know. So this is what she did. But in 2016, she was poorly and went into hospital. She had pneumonia, and in the hospital, she'd mentioned she'd had pain behind her ear and her eyes for a long time. So they checked her over on that and found she had a cyst. So she was in hospital for a couple of weeks, and then she came home. And I opened a letter, and it said, why didn't you attend a medical? And it could affect your money.
This is a work capability assessment.
So that's right. So I said, oh, don't worry. We'd never seen the actual appointment letter because it had been put aside. Obviously, everything could be fine. Just tell them the situation and we'll get another appointment.
And when you told the Department of Work and Pensions the situation, why Jodie had missed her work capability assessment, what was the response?
Well, we sent all the information off, and then a letter came and it said, you're fit to work. Well, I looked at Jodie and she looked at me. She said, what am I going to do? It's saying I'm fit to work. I said, well, that's not right. I knew straight away, there's something wrong here.
Jodie was suffering physically. That's why she was on benefits and why she was unable to work.
Yes.
Her mental health deteriorated quickly after finding out that her benefits would be stopped.
Yes.
What was she like in those weeks? Because she wrote down how she was feeling as well.
Well, we found all these... I mean, obviously, we could see the change in her. And she wasn't the same person, you know, like talking. We used to, like... I'd go to her flat every day, help her, and you could see that it was on her mind all the time. Even other members of the family all noticed. It just got worse and worse. And then, like I say, the day before she died, I'd phoned up the job centre. I phoned up the DWP and asked if there was some type of, you know, of crisis loan, anything till we see the second...
You were exploring every avenue.
Yeah. And they said, oh, she'll have to go to a job centre. I said, she can't go out of the house. She can't walk. She's convalescent. And she had all adaptions in the flat. So I went to the job centre on her behalf and spoke to a security guard at the door, and I told him the situation. Could I speak to an advisor? And then the advisor come and said, oh, no, there's nothing by the sound of it. Her case is dormant. And that was it. So I went back and I could see her face drop when I said, no, there was no way. Well, her daughter, Emma, had said, Mum, I know you're poorly, but I could get you over to Man and I'll look after you for a couple of days and give Nana a break. So she said she would do that. And that was a Monday. So I said, I'll get in touch with you later on. I'll give you a ring at Emma's. So I rang and Emma said she hasn't arrived, Nana. You know, I texted, said, I'll send a taxi. No answer. So suddenly, well, not suddenly, it came to me, there's something wrong, there's something definitely wrong here. And then in the end, Emma and another granddaughter, Amy, had gone over to the flats. And I said, right, I'll come with the key, you know, we'll meet there. The concierge got the key and opened the door. We walked down the passage and I just seen her, she was sat up and she was dead. And I just started screaming. I fell back and my granddaughters were like, oh my God, Mum, you know. And it just was all pandemonium, everything.
This was 2 weeks after her benefits were stopped.
Yeah.
Jodie had taken her own life.
Yeah. I wrote to the coroner and I said, this is my daughter. She's not just a number. I blame the DWP because I've seen the change in how it affected her. So when we had the first inquest, it was only 37 minutes, which she read the letter out, but she didn't get them involved. She didn't say to the DWP, oh, by the way, someone's blaming you for a daughter, you know, taking her own life. She said, it's not in my remit, I can't do anything.
There was no evidence relating to the DWP decision at that first inquest. Can you just talk to me about the nature of what you were dealing with? You called the DWP, for example, to tell them of Jodie's death. They said, OK, we will update our records, we will notify the relevant people. Then what happened?
She died on the 21st of February. So by the time I was getting things, you know, in order, I thought I'd better phone the DWP. So I phoned them on the 23rd of February. And I said, my daughter's took her own life. Oh, well, sorry to hear about that. We'll tell the one system. Everyone who's dealt with Jodie will be notified. But as it went on the 25th of February, it was dated a letter from a second decision maker saying, you're fit to work. He'd said the same as the first one, but the 25th of February, he wrote that to us, well, to Jodie, but he hadn't been informed of her suicide. This one system was all to pot. No one knew what they were doing. We're even getting phone calls in the May. She died in the February, asking for her. How does that work? So this is when I started complaining. The Citizens Advice, who worked for Jodie as well, trying to get her help and get her money back, they said you can work as an appointee. So that's what I did. And this is when I went to all the complaints department. And we went to 2 different complaints departments, to DWP, saying how we thought it affected Jodie, but they wouldn't admit to anything. They only said sorry for letters or phone calls. Then it came to the last step. It said you can go to the independent case examiner, which Citizens Advice, Susan called and said, do you want to? I said, yeah, I want to take it as far as I can. And then we went to them and they found all the failings, and she shouldn't have even been asked to go to a medical, because when I was saying about renewing the forms every 2 years, she'd put 2012 and 2014, if ever she was pushed to do something she couldn't handle, with her mental health and everything, she would take her own life. And they had that, and they ignored it. They never even looked back that far.
You continued the fight, and you did eventually receive a letter from the DWP that it had changed its decision, but it was too late.
It was.
It took you 5 years to get a second inquest, and a second inquest is a rarity.
Yeah.
But you got one for your daughter. The coroner, Claire Bailey, recorded a conclusion of suicide, which she said had been precipitated by the mistaken withdrawal of benefits by the DWP. All of this, we're talking about an 8-year process to get where you are today.
Yeah. And she said, which was the trigger that made Jodie take her own life.
Which was important to you, because you knew what was happening to your
Well, I know
daughter.
you say 5 years to get a second inquest. That's how long it takes from, you know, go to the Justice Court, the appeal courts and everything. But like I say, it goes back 8 years for when the first inquest have been, like, carrying it on, you know. Them decision makers, I'd love to face them and say, why didn't you look back? Everything was there. She threatened to kill herself, and what you said was fit to work.
Joy Dove telling her daughter Jodie's story. Well, the Department of Work and Pensions said after the inquest that staff were deeply regretful about what happened to Jodie. We put Joy's claims this evening to the department once again, a spokesperson saying this. We continue to offer our sincerest condolences to Jodie Whiting's family. We will consider the coroner's full findings and use them to build further on the improvements the department has already made to protect and support vulnerable claimants. And if you've been affected by that story, you can contact the Samaritans at any time. Their number is 116123, or you can email them joe@samaritans.org. Now, it is just over 2 weeks until the Women's Euros kick off in Switzerland, and as the reigning champions, the Lionesses will be hoping to go all the way once again. But their preparations for the tournament haven't been the smoothest, with both goalkeeper Mary Earps and defender Millie Bright withdrawing from the squad and retiring from international football altogether. Our sports correspondent Rob Harris is at St George's Park and has been speaking to some of the players.
I'm in the heart of St George's Park, the home of the England football teams, and in this room we're going to be hearing from the Lionesses heading out to Switzerland to defend their Euros title. How are they all feeling?
More expectation, more eyes are on us, more eyes than ever. I think we've seen that the Euros obviously winning that, going to the World Cup final as well. But it's what we want. We want the game to grow. We want it to be bigger. Now there is the attention, so everybody wants to have a story about something, and people love drama at the end of the day. People love things that are unexpected.
Unexpected scrutiny with the drama of 3 Euro 2022 winners suddenly withdrawing from consideration. Millie Bright to protect her mental well-being. Frank Kirby and Mary Earps retiring from international duty after losing their starting places.
There hasn't been a crisis. Some surprising things have happened and things that maybe we didn't see coming, but the squad's in a good place.
With the first choice goalkeeper now Hannah Hampton. So how is Chelsea's treble winner feeling about inheriting the #1 jersey from Mary Earps?
That just me being able to fulfil the legacy she's had in goal is going to be a tough role in itself. But no, look, Mayor's always been supportive. She's always there saying, wishing you all the best, and like it's your moment now. So everyone has to respect that decision.
So the players are facing the media for an hour, and now with the youngest member of the squad, Michelle Adjumang, 19 years old. It was only in April that you made your debut for England's senior team, and you scored after 41 seconds. So lots expected of you.
Yeah, no, we're obviously, me and the rest of the team are all humble for the occasion, and yeah, we're ready for whatever comes at us. At the beginning of this year, it wasn't even in my plans, but obviously things just happen, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
So it all begins at the Euros for them on the 5th of July against France. Then it's a match against the Netherlands before completing the group stage against Wales.
Still to come here on the programme, we're going to speak to the British teen hoping to become a sumo superstar in Japan. And by royal appointments, King Charles and Queen Camilla lead the procession at Royal Ascot. The event's getting underway in sweltering conditions today.
First Minister, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice to see you. How are you feeling?
Looking forward to getting into the parliamentary chamber.
Are you any further forward to making a decision?
No, it's an important day today.
All of the claims were in line with my parliamentary duties, so I'm making that clear to you, Conor.
He was a Scot through and through.
He was a very good politician.
Alex Salmond was controversial, he was a disruptor, but above all, he was respected.
Will you resign if you lose this week?
Again, I'm not planning to, of course, lose the vote of no confidence. I'm planning to win that vote of no confidence.
His face said it all.
My intention to stand down as party leader.
This is now a storm with deadly consequences. How are they feeling?
They're a bit scared at the minute.
We've been told to evacuate.
How are you feeling?
Devastated.
Hundreds of homes were wiped out by flooding. I'm Conor Gillis, Sky's Scotland correspondent.
It was probably the darkest time in my life.
Scott is 5 years sober after a cocaine addiction left him close to death.
Scotland has a shameful record. Worse than England, the worst in Europe.
Why not just say you failed? Because then you might get more respect from families who've lost loved ones. This is where one of the UK's most prolific rapists thought he'd got away with murder.
Sky News can reveal that former sex workers had told police he was sexually violent.
My Emma.
Free wherever you get your news. It's over, isn't it?
The Americans say he is, Rossi, a fraudster.
This has been one of the most bizarre cases ever heard in a courtroom in this country.
A dangerous murderer.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Andrew Ennis after this?
She said she can forgive him, but as long as he's behind bars.
By doing the right thing, it's destroyed your life.
They terrorised me. They intimidated me.
I'm so grateful.
Sky News, the full story first.
So direct hit on the hospital. Absolute mayhem.
All the bays are full and they're all gunshot wounds. Absolute carnage here.
We hear a lot about the dead in this conflict, but there are going to be so many disabled people.
We could make a difference here and stop the war, and if we don't, I don't think there will be anything to come back to.
Hello, welcome back. Coming up, I'm going to speak to the 15-year-old from Hull who is heading out to Japan to fulfil his sumo dream. I can't wait for this conversation. It's going to be fascinating. But first, a different kind of sport. Teddy is here and we're talking about tennis. Emma Raducanu, there's a new US Open mixed doubles format this year. And that has allowed her to try something a little different.
Yeah, her agent's been speaking to the agent of Carlos Alcaraz. So the new format means that the doubles mixed event will take place the week before the main singles event, but it'd be the big stadiums, Arthur Ashe, Louis Armstrong. Lots of people, there'll be $1 million prize money, but it gives an opportunity, I think, for a little bit of fun for these guys to team up. Otherwise, they'd be in the singles action. It's been controversial in some circles, the purists for the doubles, but it is the 2022 Men's US Open Grand Slam champion, teaming up with Raducanu, who you're absolutely correct. I just double-checked today. She has risen to British #1 to usurp Katie Bolter.
We were
just
discussing that in the break.
she's on the...
Emma Raducanu back at #1. And then we had a debate over whether it was Katie Bolter. And I was like, no, I'm sure she's #2.
If she is for now, unless Bolter wins in Nottingham this week, maybe she'll go back above her.
I very rarely get things right compared to you when it comes to sport, but I'll take that.
Well, you've got your pedigree in sport as well, to be fair. But it's exciting news. A lot of exciting doubles pairs there, including Raducanu and Alcaraz. As we say, Raducanu, British #1 now, but has more of a difficult time since winning the US Open in 2021. That scintillating late summer 4 years ago. Alcaraz won in 2022, same age, 22. Would have been the same school year. So it's an intriguing one, isn't it? Two box office players, and Alcaraz with 4 slams under his belt since that US Open title. He's on the rise, but potentially could come up against Yannick Sinner, who's been his big rival, beat him recently in that 5-set epic in the singles at the French Open. Sinner is part of this tournament as well, and he is going to be teamed up with Emma Navarro, so that could be an intriguing matchup.
Well, this Raducanu and Alcaraz pairing, exciting, and I would imagine lucrative.
Well, it's $1 million prize money, but I imagine there'll be amplified marketing opportunities there for both. And it's interesting that when it came out that we understand that the agent of Carlos Alcaraz contacted Emma Raducanu's agent and proposed it, and Alcaraz has spoken about this. Haven't heard from Raducanu yet, but he says he's super excited. He said, obviously, they're going to win.
They're going to be billed as the dream team, aren't they, giving both of their history at Flushing?
They're going to be dreams as the dream team as well. But there's some other pairs in there. Novak Djokovic is going to be taking part, Iga Swiatek and Casper Ruud. And also worth noting that Britain's Jack Draper, the singles semi-finalist last time, he's going to be going with Zheng Qinwen, who knocked Raducanu out in the quarterfinals of Queens last week. So some interesting matches. Maybe Draper will steal the show from Raducanu, but look forward to it. A little bit different and some big high-profile mixed doubles pairs. So that's the tennis. We'll update you more on the men's Queens event in just a second. Of course, it was women's last week.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Andrea, 2 years on from your departure from Leeds United, how pleased are you to see them back in the Premier League?
I'm very happy. As a fan of Leeds, as ex-chairman, I'm very, very glad for the fans that they are finally back in where they belong, the Premier League. And it is a big release for me because honestly, I had a very traumatic and difficult exit, and finally I feel now that the destiny adjusted everything, and I can come back to Leeds soon.
Do you still speak to Parag Marathe and the ownership group?
Yes. I speak to him normally a couple of times every month, and we stay in touch during the season. We comment about Leeds, we comment about other football trends, but particularly about Leeds. And we just spoke recently this week when he was in Leeds, but also he was busy in Rangers for looking at new opportunity. I think Parag and the guys involved supporting him and the new management will have the credibility and the experience, they know how to take it to the next level. So they can take back the route and the direction to bring back Leeds as a, I hope, top club and back to Europe one day.
How difficult will it be for Leeds, that jump from the Championship back to...
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Now, a teenager from Hull has become only the second British person ever to be offered a place at one of Japan's prestigious sumo academies. 15-year-old Nicholas Tarasenko only took up the sport a couple of years ago, but he'll now be heading to the home of sumo wrestling after completing his GCSEs in June. All being well, he will train for around a year before turning pro. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Nicholas and his dad, Georgie, joined us on the UK Tonight. Now, a very good evening to you. Nicholas, I'm fascinated by this story and your interest in sumo wrestling. Where did it come from?
My dad's always been a sumo fan, and he found out there's a tournament in Estonia, his own country. And when we was visiting, I took part in this competition and I managed to win.
Georgie, where did you pick up sumo wrestling and foster this interest? Because you've obviously passed it down to your son.
Well, heavy guys from judo, they always look for more opportunities, you know. But then it's always been Japanese sport until I seen Konishiki, the big Hawaiian guy, and then I understood it could be for everyone else as well.
Yeah, Nicholas, I have to confess, I know nothing about sumo wrestling. I'm pretty good at my sport, but this one's escaped me. Tell me about it. What does it involve?
It involves a lot of pushing and a lot of like close contact, like wrestling, or there is striking, like slapping, which is more of like a thrust. And it's just a few seconds of short bursts, and you just go at your opponent as hard as you can. And there's so much action packed into just a few seconds, so much technique. It's amazing.
So it's quick, is what you're saying, fast and furious, as it were. Yeah. You're only the second Brit to ever be invited to train to be a sumo wrestler. Are there many Western competitors?
Well, there's a rule in Japan where the sumo stables only allow one foreigner. So that could be of any race. It could be Mongolian, it could be American, Hawaiian, it could be anything. But the rule is there's only allowed to be one foreigner per stable, and there's 45 of them in Japan.
Oh, well, Nicholas, you've got a golden ticket. How did you get their attention?
I just showed up to a sumo after party after we watched a tournament in Japan. I was going there to train judo. We went to go see the tournament. And when I went to the sumo after party, we just asked, and it's very, very hard to get into something like sumo. It's very limited spaces, and they fill up almost instantly. So the fact I managed to get this space is amazing, and I'm very grateful for it.
Have you been to Japan before? Because it's going to be quite the experience, isn't it? I'm just looking at some of these more traditional images of sumo as people may recognise it. You know, this is going to be a real change of culture as well as sports on your way to turning pro.
Yeah, well, I've been to Japan before. I've been there for a total of 13 weeks. I've been there over the summer school holidays, and I find that it's really exciting. The training is hard. There's so much legs involved. You can't even sit down after it. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of squatting, isn't there? You're going to have strong thighs by the looks of it.
It's not like bodybuilders. Do you know how they squat like hundreds of kilos?
Yeah.
It's nothing like that. Bodybuilders have tried it and they said there has been nothing that compared to sumo at all.
I love that. The strength involved totally different. It's even, too much for the bodybuilders. What does the training involve then, Nicholas?
It involves hours of just pure legs. It involves just practice fights as well. Lots of technique is actually involved in sumo. People think that the main thing about sumo is to get big and strong. While it is a factor, there is so much technique that goes into it. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Oh, every day will be leg day for you at the gym from now on. Listen, Nicholas and Georgie, you must be so proud given your involvement in the sport and your interest in it. It's an exciting opportunity for you. We wish you well, and we look forward to talking to you when you return from Japan as a pro sumo wrestler. Nicholas Tarasenko there, 15 years old, heading out to Japan after his GCSEs. Oh, good luck for those GCSEs as well, and his dad, Georgie. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, pleasure. Right, let's take a quick look at the weather.
The ideal atmosphere, whatever the altitude. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Temperatures on the rise this week, reaching the low 30s in the south from Friday and the mid to high 20s in the north. Heatwave conditions likely to be met for some of us this weekend. Most places dry this evening. Central Britain will have some patchy light rain, while northern Scotland will see showers. You can expect further showers there overnight, but that patchy rain over central parts will largely fade away. There'll be some misty low cloud in the mild south. Much of England and Wales, along with central and southern parts of Ireland, will be dry and sunny tomorrow morning once that early cloud lifts. It's going to become warm or very warm there. Elsewhere, cooler and cloudier with a few showers over Scotland, mainly in the blustery north. The afternoon bringing more of the same, but patchy rain may clip Donegal and western Scotland later.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
That's it from the UK tonight. We will return tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, so we'll see you then. Up next, it is The World with Yalda Hakim. She is live in Jerusalem.